Together, they represent almost 6 million trade unionists in our country working in solidarity with the people of Cuba. I have been asked to speak about the policies of neoliberalism and austerity across Europe and the possibilities for the future. Today, workers across Europe are rallying against neoliberalism across the countries of the continent. This struggle has many forms and has resulted in many different outcomes, some very positive, others less so. But people are fighting back wherever they can. We saw the mass strikes in Greece, which to begin with seemed to bring to power a radical Greek government. We have seen the mass popular movements in Spain and across the continent. Right now, we are seeing mass actions and strikes across France against the austerity drive of the Macron government. In my country, in Britain, we have seen the rise of a socialist-driven Labour Party under the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn. Socialist with ideas and policies hardened over 50 years of progressive struggle. When two of the Cuban five, Gerardo Hernandez and René González, finally received their visas and visited Britain, Jeremy Corbyn received them personally in the Houses of Parliament. Despite the protests across Europe, neoliberalism has seen the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer right across the continent. Corporate bureaucrats, not only in Brussels at the centre of the European Union, but in capitals across the continent, work as agents of the big banks and transnationals, which now exert control over every aspect of our lives. Neoliberal policies and practices dominate the European Commission, the European Parliament, the European Central Bank, the European Court of Justice, and a compliant media legitimises their whole project. In Britain, there has been a vote to leave the European Union, and while this is not universally supported across the left, it is clear to everyone that the European Union itself has been part of the drive to the neoliberal project on behalf of the European ruling classes. Workers across the continent have seen increasing job insecurity, low pay, 0 hours contracts, their trade union rights taken away, their pension rights attacked. This free trade ideology comes together with the free movement of capital, flexible labour markets, privatisation of public services and the eradication of our welfare services, particularly in health and education. And this has been accelerating over the last 10 years since the worldwide financial crash. The richest 1% have seen their proportion of wealth increase by around 6% every year since then. And this means that the richest 1% now own an incredible 80% of the world's wealth. The European Union is backed by a super elite that supports a freewheeling free market where factories can be moved across borders as companies wish, and where workers are free to be exploited across the continent. Under the current system, there can be little or no protection for national industries, or indeed national workforces. It is a casino economy, a free-for-all for capitalism and the insatiable drive to profit. Countries cannot even set their own interest rates and are left powerless to support their own economies. I want to give a brief example of the power of the United States and the international capitalist class. The US blockade, as we know, is extraterritorial, and it affects Cuba, but also all of us in our own countries. In Britain, a British national bank, the Cooperative Bank, closed all the bank accounts of the Cuba Solidarity Campaign. They explained, that they had to because of the extraterritorial laws of the US blockade. Last year, one Cuban student was banned from even applying for a course to study at the Open University in Britain. This was direct discrimination, driven by the extraterritorial application of the US blockade. Such discrimination is illegal in our country. Yet our government and the Open University decided to ignore our own national and sovereign laws against discrimination. In effect, they put the US extraterritorial legislation, the laws, over and above our own national laws. This affects our own national sovereignty, as well as that of Cuba. We organised a huge campaign with trade unions and over 240 members of Parliament. We took legal action against the Open University, and I am pleased to say that after 1 year, together we forced the Open University to change its discriminatory policy, and we look forward to seeing this Cuban student start his course in September this year. Woo! The last thing the capitalist class wish for is for the people to have any democratic control over the systems of their own governments. And as such, the European Union itself has been designed to remove national democratic accountability. Today, the powerful corporate lobby works tirelessly to circumvent and destroy the social rights that were won by workers across so many countries in Europe in the aftermath of World War II. Creating such democratic deficits in the European Union and institutions and policy making by unaccountable technocrats has enabled and accelerated this process of dismantling people's rights. And we are left with a devastating series of public spending cuts and the wholesale privatisation of welfare, health and education services. At the same time, there has been a huge attack on workers and trade union rights, and rights that have been removed by governments to shackle the workers' ability to organise and fight back. According to the International Labour Organization, collective bargaining rights have fallen by an average of 21% across the 10 EU countries hardest hit by the economic crisis. And it has fallen by a massive 60% in Romania and 45% in Greece. Collective bargaining is where workers' salaries and conditions are agreed collectively by the trade union with the employers, with the bosses. And it was at its high point in the 1980s, when 86% of UK workers went to work on a daily basis under terms and conditions negotiated by trade unions. Today that figure is just 20% of employers in collectively organised agreements. The impact of the collapse of the coverage of collective bargaining means that the share of gross domestic product going to wages has fallen from around 60% in 1980 to just 50% today. And this means a huge drop in the share of the wealth that is created in our countries going to the working people, and means real hardship for ordinary working families across the continent. These anti-trade union laws and policies, passed and implemented, are actually just regional versions of the articles laid down in the Lisbon Treaty of the European Union. The message is clear. The European Union is no place for trade unionists or trade union rights. When the Greek people tried to choose an alternative anti-austerity government, the bankers and the institutions of the European Union were desperate to force the Syriza government in Greece to its knees. They had to demonstrate to the workers in Greece and the other European states the fate that would await them should they demand democracy, national sovereignty and an end to austerity. As has always been the case, what protects workers in Europe and Britain is not the social rights from benevolent bureaucrats in Brussels, but it is our collective strength and our ability to organise and take action to defend our rights at work, our people's rights to health, and our people's rights to education and democracy. Europe today is also no place to be a young person. The European Union has around 23 million unemployed. The social fabrics are deteriorating at an alarming rate. In some EU countries, youth unemployment has gone beyond 50%. Europe is no place either for internationalism. It is in fact a racist, fortress Europe, doing everything it can, including allowing refugees to be shot or drown in the Mediterranean every day, to prevent those fleeing from Syria and other countries from being able to enter Europe. The countries of the European Union conduct an economic terrorism on a global scale through aggressive global trade policies and structural adjustment programmes, in particular towards African states. And this has only served to deepen the poverty and inequality whilst enriching the mainly white European 1%. Neoliberal logic is insidious, and some trade union and political leaders in our countries seem confused by all of it. And they continue to argue that some kind of utopian European Union can exist, offering protection for workers across the continent. In reality, any social guarantees on a few issues are never more than just a few crumbs. They are a gesture to disguise the reality of the European Union as a union of capitalists, not a union of the people. The working class are facing the same fight against low pay, casualisation, cuts and privatisation in every country of the EU. And what protects workers in Britain and Europe is our collective strength and our ability to organise. Real internationalism is workers' and people's solidarity throughout Europe and the world. It is why it is such an honour to be here today in Cuba, a country that has for more than 50 years demonstrated what real internationalism looks like. From Quinto Carnevale, from the children of the disaster at Chernobyl, to the foothills of the Himalayas and the dangerous Ebola crisis in Africa, in more than 70 countries across the globe, where Cubans serve tirelessly in support of their fellow human beings, regardless of their race, their sexuality, their religion, their wealth or their colour. Cuba continues to show that a better world is indeed possible, one based on need and of our collective. You Cubans should be very proud of your struggles, of your achievements, today and in the future. We are all very proud of Cuba.
Right on.
Friends and comrades, a better world is possible, but it is up to us all to achieve it. No one will give us that world without a fight. But we can win that fight and build that better world together. Viva el Solidaridad Internacional y viva Cuba!
Viva!